Initiation ceremonies have been part of Aboriginal culture for thousands of years. But as Alec Doomadgee found out, passing Indigenous culture on to your children who've grown up in the city far from their homelands can be a challenge. Alec is an Aboriginal activist and an actor and a presenter and a tribal lawman. For 10 years, he's been taking his son Zach back home to Doomadgee in far north Queensland to show him how to live a traditional life. Director Petersen followed Alex and Zach on that journey, from the early visits right up to Zach's initiation ceremony. And the result is the award-winning documentary, Zach's Ceremony.
I like to fish, I like to box, I like to hang out with my friends at school, I like to draw, I like to catch fish with a spear, I like to learn about Aboriginal stuff, I like to learn my culture, and what I really most possess, I'd like to go through ceremony.
That's Zach Doomadgee, the focus of the documentary, Zach's Ceremony, and the documentary's director, Petersen, and Zach's father, Alec, join us now from Melbourne. Alec, welcome to RN Breakfast.
Good morning, Fran.
Good morning, and thank you for having us.
Can I start with you? It's a documentary about a boy's journey to manhood, filmed over a decade. It tells a very intimate story. What we heard there was pretty much the start of the doco, which is incredibly engaging. What engaged you in this story? What made you so dedicated to this story?
Oh, for me, straight off the back, I grew up in an era in Australia when education wasn't really taught about Indigenous people. So for me, I had to learn straight away. I met Alec about 9 years ago now, and he started telling me about the story of his son and his plans to go through the initiation process. And for me, I was immediately engaged. You know, I had a newborn baby boy and a 2-year-old, and I thought, I have nothing like this to share with them in my culture. So I had to get on board and learn more and go from there, basically, and just sit back and watch and absorb.
And Alec, your relationship with Zach is the focus of this doco. At the beginning, Zach is a young boy who we heard there, really so looking forward to ceremony. He never loses that desire, but he grows into a teenager. He causes you headaches. The best thing about, well, not the best thing, but one of the amazing things about this documentary is you have footage of all of this. How did you manage to film so much of Zach's life? Do we have Zach cam on or something?
He still gives me headaches.
I'm sure he does. You and every other parent, Alec.
I think he's going to do that for the rest of my life, or the rest of his life. But it was funny hearing his little voice just then, way back then. He's matured a lot of the years. Now he's grown into this big, strong warrior.
How old is he now?
He's 18 now, and it was funny because I always, I guess, had a camera around. And I always had this vision, of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to tell the story and what parts of our lives, I wanted to film and just to have on record. My big thing was just film it, and as long as I got it in the bank, I can go back to it and look at it later, whether we need it or not. So, every time we was on family holidays, or I always had a camera with me just to do something, or just to pick it up and put camera, whatever we were doing. But at the same time, also, wanted to, I guess, have it with me when I was around the elders and the law keepers, just to make sure that they were comfortable with me having that around. It took me a while to sort of, I guess, earn the respect to be able to have the camera around them during such a sacred rite of passage.
Sure, and I'll come back to that. But what was impressive was that the camera was on Zach even when you were away and he was going off the rails. Aaron, how did you manage that? And was Zach very cooperative?
Yeah, it was a tricky process in the beginning. I first met Zach when he was about 9 years old. So I had to have one-on-one time. I had to earn his trust. And from there, we basically just started to bond and I introduced the camera. And he just became really warm to the camera, and he's a natural storyteller just like his father. So had this ability to be able to share stories with me beyond the camera, and we just happened to capture that beautiful moment all the way through.
Alec, how challenging as a parent is it to raise a child in a deeply urban environment and then make sure he maintains connection to the land? Because that's clearly instilled in Zach. How much pressure did you feel to get that connection, and how hard was it to instill?
Look, it's very difficult to raise children in this day and age, be it from no matter what background you're from. But it's doubly difficult for Indigenous parents. Aboriginal people, have these expectations I guess, to have knowledge. And there's this presumption that Aboriginal fellows, and women for that matter, know everything about Aboriginal issues and Aboriginal culture. And it's, far from it, due to a lot of reasons, but due to, the impact, I guess, of colonisation and invasion and whatnot. So it's, it's an expectation of us to, every time, I guess, there's an Indigenous issue brought up, you always go to your black friend and ask them what's going on, or an Aboriginal person have an educated sort of, I guess, answer about it. Well, that's not the case. So it's a difficult task to raise Indigenous kids and Aboriginal people in this world and have that knowledge of both the worlds they're walking in to be able to address the issues that we're dealing with. So, I found it very difficult over the years, even though that I had this real. I'm lucky that I've got that connection back up home in Doomadgee in the Gulf country, and
you clearly do. There's a very powerful moment in the movie, a sort of pivotal moment when Zach's cousin Brandon takes his own life, and the suicide statistics in Doomadgee, as they are in some other places, are horrible. And you say that you felt that you've always believed that knowledge of culture would save youth, but it didn't save Brandon.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's the way it is at the moment. I'm trying to, I guess, find what's going to, I guess, inspire our young ones and our older ones that matter. Unfortunately, there's suicide rates in our community, is terrible at the moment, and I'm hoping that, I guess, with more reconnection with culture and ceremonies, that might, I guess, spark something, to have respect for themselves and the people around them, all the rest of it. So, and even telling the story about my nephew, it was really hard because in our way of life, it's sometimes considered disrespectful to bring up one's names, speak names, stuff like that. So I also had to, make sure my family understood why I was doing it and why the film was important. Because I'm hoping this film also sparks those young ones to I guess go back and reconnect with their culture and steer clear of, I guess, those suicidal thoughts. And it's a lot of reasons why those thoughts come about.
And on that front, can I ask you? I'm sure you probably saw the Bill Leak cartoon that created so much controversy, depicting an Aboriginal man with a beer can who doesn't remember his son's name. This is all about you as a father and a son. How did that cartoon leave you feeling?
I was disappointed because I know we're better than that, and Bill Leak's unfortunately, and he's passed on recently, so much respect to him and his family. And that I'm the sort of person that I look at society around me and I see that things happen, and I use examples of stuff to sort of better myself and do things in a different way.
I'm sure Bill Leak would have said that too. I mean, you look at the stats and it shows Indigenous men are 13 more times likely to end up in prison than non-Indigenous, and that has implications for them as fathers too. So he would have said he was speaking a truth.
Yeah, well, he was, but at the same time, there's a certain way you have to speak truth, and you can twist it any way you can. I guess with what the cartoons were doing, it was sparking outrage amongst Indigenous people and causing angst, and I guess for me, I would do that in a different way. I would like to, and a lot of these conversations that happen to our people has to be led by us, because every time an outsider comes in, there's a lot of mistrust there and a lot of ugliness because due to, I guess, years of bad treatment. And this was another thing that was looked at as that. But I would, I would, for me personally, I certainly would want to do it in a different way. That's the reason why with the film, the tagline is "Awakening the Warrior Within," and it's about empowering our people to be that strong warrior again.
Yes.
They've heard enough about all the bad things. They've heard enough of all the negative things. And most of them couldn't be further from the truth. 80% to 90% of Aboriginal men are amazing fathers. They're really, really good, strong men that work hard for their kids and their wives. And it's been a long time. The thing is, one thing that happened with first contact and colonisation and whatnot was they attacked our family unit first, and they divided and conquered our families. So what we're trying to do is reconnect that family to make sure that we're strong again. And the only way to move forward with that is to try and find a better solution and a better way of the stereotype in mainstream media, unfortunately, is always negative towards Indigenous men, Indigenous women, and we want to change that perspective. And that's what this film does.
That's exactly what this film is all about. And Aaron, just briefly and finally to you, being able to capture an initiation ceremony or elements of it on tape is a very rare thing. Just very briefly, the moment and the contrast between Zach in his Sydney clothes and then standing on his land looking like a warrior is incredible. Just very briefly, how did you feel when you got to shoot that moment?
I was incredibly privileged to be able to experience the whole journey, basically, to be out standing on country next to incredibly powerful people and watching a sacred event take place. It was something I'd never obviously forget.
All right, Aaron Petersen and Alec Doomadgee, congratulations on this film. It is terrific. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Fran.
Aaron Petersen and Alec Doomadgee and their award-winning doco Zach's Ceremony opens in cinemas across the country today. I do urge you to have a look at it. It is beautiful as it is powerful. It's 8 minutes to 7 on Breakfast.